Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the voyages of 3 veteran Trekkies, Rich, Ian, and Toby. Their ongoing mission? To explore the vast Star Trek universe, to seek out new perspectives and fresh debates, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. Beyond the Final Frontier.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with me, your host, Rich Matthews, and my fellow intergalactic voyagers, Mr. Ian Spelling.
Hello, everybody.
And Mr. Toby Weidman.
Hello.
In today's episode, we're going to explore our favourite, most impactful, sort of slight open for interpretation, shocks and twists in all of Star Trek. Whether or not we have any shocks and twists and/or twists in our own choices remains to be seen. I mean, it'll be interesting. I think this is a slightly more unusual one for us, where there's a greater scope for variance than sometimes we have.
Well, I'll just say that the biggest shock throughout the whole of Star Trek is probably the Enterprise theme.
Yeah.
But that isn't in my list.
That's a shock to the system. That's a totally different kind of shock, yeah.
Yes, when I watched Broken Bow with my daughter recently, when the theme song started, she went, "What's this?" I was like, I know.
And then you had to show her Patch Adams.
Oh, yes, I know. It's great sometimes, isn't it, when you watch it with someone younger and they go through the same thing you did, which is you get to the end credits and she went, "Why isn't this the theme?"
For those who don't know, by the way, that the Enterprise theme is a reworking of a song that appears in Patch Adams.
Yes, Rod Stewart.
How does it go? No one's going to do it.
It's been a long road
getting from there to here. Yeah.
We're going to cut that out, yes.
Not my beautiful voice.
Choir boy Toby.
The truth is that I almost went to choir school. I was a very good little soprano, and then my testicles dropped and voice broke, and the singing voice never came back.
I guess my testicles never dropped because I could never sing a lick and still can't. I would have picked them up, but they're gone.
Maybe that was your twist. Okay, so I will kick off as normal then. In terms of greatest shocks, some of these aren't necessarily ones that necessarily I think are the best, just ones which did have an impact regardless of the episodes and the shows, really. So my number 7 is that Captain Lorca is from the Mirror Universe.
That's also my number 7.
Woo! That's unusual.
And, you know, I show no love to disco, as you know, but I was thinking about this. It's that heel turn, to take a phrase from wrestling, there are plenty of examples. Like, I thought about Sisko and I thought about Eddington. But yeah, the Lorca one, out of all of the 2 seasons that I saw of Discovery, that's the thing that most sticks in my mind. The Lorca that you thought you knew isn't the Lorca that you thought you knew.
I wasn't terribly shocked by it. I kind of saw that one coming. I'm not sure how or why. It might have been because I was on set and we saw something on the bridge that kind of hinted that it was the dark side of the universe. And I went, oh. And it was his ready room that had the plaque that kind of gave it away.
Yeah.
So maybe that was what signaled to me that something was going on there.
Yeah, for me, it was the reason it was effective is because I genuinely quite liked Lorca. Jason Isaacs was very good. I thought he was a good get in terms of an actor of a certain profile and quality. And so actually, ultimately, I thought, oh no, does this mean, no, he's not my captain. Sonequa is great, and the character ultimately gave Michael a bit more purpose, I imagine. But yeah, I remember being surprised and then a bit disappointed that this was where we were going. And also, as we've said in previous episodes, I'm not the biggest Mirror Universe fan. I think it's overused.
My biggest criticism of Disco is that while the setups were reasonably good and engaging and, you know, quite often exciting, the payoffs never ever satisfied me. They always seemed, either too far-fetched or ridiculous, or they frustrated me. As I mentioned before, I never really got into the characters in the show, one or two aside. Lorca is the exception for me. I did like that character, and I thought Jason Isaacs portrayed that underlying duplicity very well right from the off. You know there's something off about him, but you can't quite put your finger on it. That whole sequence where Burnham is talking to the Empress and then Lorca is in the agony booth and then the switch finally comes. It really did surprise me, and so I'm going to give it some applause for that. The setup was good. The reveal was good. The payoff and what eventually happened, I mean, let's just say it was very Discovery, and I'll leave it at that.
My number 7 is killing Tuvix.
Ah.
Right.
I thought that was huge. I thought it was a very cool episode. I thought it was brilliantly acted, but it had that huge twist of, will they kill this guy or not? And assuming our love of Star Trek and assuming Star Trek's track record for doing, quote unquote, the right thing, the ethical thing, the moral thing, you would think that Janeway would somehow keep Tuvix alive. But no. That is one of the biggest ethical debates in all of Star Trek fandom. Even among people who love every minute of the show, there are people who think this was a false note. I'm not among them, and Kate Mulgrew is not among them. She supports that decision to this day. I understand your concern, but I'm going to have to order you to comply. It's not the warmest line that Janeway has ever said. You know, she's this kind of tough but maternal leader. And here, she's maternal but tougher and does what has to be done.
Maternal? In this instance?
Oh, no. Protecting everything.
The mother hen, in a way.
The mother hen to the ship, yeah. Tuvix's line, doesn't anyone see I'm alive, I have a right to live? That's Star Trek in a nutshell. So for that reason, number 7 for me. It was almost higher up, by the way. There were just other ones that were more personal to me. So I shifted my order a little bit. I found this a whole interesting project. You know, I broke this one down to 15 to start. And this was originally a little further down. And it just kept moving up my list as I tried to cut things. Okay, this kind of duplicates this or this repeats that. For the sake of the conversation even, it has to be on my list because I wanted to make sure we talked about this one.
This isn't in my list. And
you regret that it's not?
Well, the reason why it's not is because I don't think I ever doubted that Janeway would make that decision.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
It wasn't a plot twist or a surprise to me. I agree with you that in terms of the ethics of it, it's definitely something that is talked about a heck of a lot. And I think that is a conversation to be had. But in terms of the surprise or the plot twist factor, I don't think I ever considered that she wouldn't.
Because of Tim Russ and Ethan Phillips. You wouldn't have
exactly.
removed the cast.
I think that's the reason why.
The reality is we have killed off other characters before, so I wouldn't put it past them. And then just in terms of what Janeway would do versus what Star Trek would do. Star Trek might let Tuvix live. Janeway would not. And that's why it surprised me.
That's an interesting thing about in terms of the difference between Voyager that's probably not commented on enough, isn't it? We've talked about her decisions because of where she is, but that sort of moral, ethical choice is different for her, because it's not simply, has this life form got the rights? It's, I need Tuvok and Neelix more than I need this combination for us to get home. And as we know, as the show progressed, she got more and more a case of, I'll be judged when I get back. Whatever happens then, fine.
Worry about it later.
Yeah, exactly. Where I am, I've got a mission, and I'll take whatever judgment or punishment Starfleet feel fit to give me. So I think that's a really interesting point.
Well, you can't have Tuvix splitting his time between, you know, the the rec room or the kitchen and also the bridge. Where's Tuvix? Oh, he's making some soup.
Right, he's cooking Plomac. Yeah.
Yeah, he's making some cheese that's going to disable the entire ship.
That should have been in my list.
The cheese. Not one you would have anticipated, it's true. So my number 6, it isn't one I like, which is an interesting choice, but it was like, when I saw it, and it was a shock. It's the destruction of Vulcan in 2009 Star Trek.
Oh, have we done movies? Because I've only done episodes.
Oh, I've done movies.
I've done movies.
Yeah, it's all Star Trek. Yeah. So,
well, let me just say then, the death of Spock in Star Trek 2 would be my number 1, without doubt.
Right. You don't want to just bump everything up a list.
No, I'm going to stick to series episodes. So yeah,
fair enough.
Carry on.
So the reason I don't like it is because I don't like the MacGuffin stuff in red matter nonsense. I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of the Abrams, Kurtzman, let's just do something for shock value. But because it predates a lot of the coincidence layering that happens later in the film, it did have an impact. And I quite liked the idea of you, the same way killing off George Kirk, changing Kirk, and then doing something similar for Vulcan, in that shifting and potentially making a new version of the timeline. That I didn't mind. I thought that was interesting. They ultimately didn't, as ever with these things, really follow up, and it felt like in the end it was just a hook. I mean, it's only really using Into Darkness to bring back in Leonard Nimoy, and as much as we love Leonard Nimoy, it always felt a bit shoehorned, and that's when you get into all that stuff, that's where I get grumpy with it. But as a choice in a reboot, yeah, it was a big shock, especially then, of course, killing of Amanda. When you've cast a big name like Winona Ryder, you expected that to continue. Well, she has marquee value again, thanks to Stranger Things, but she still had some more then as a movie star. So, yeah, it was a bit of a punch, a gut punch.
Okay. The Enterprise self-destructs in Star Trek 3.
Ooh, good one.
That was emotional and heartbreaking for fans. For me, when I saw that in the movie, and it was just so beautifully shot, the visual effects in Star Trek 3 for the destruction of the Enterprise, the buildup of the code, and all those lines about, my God, Bones, what have I done? And
what you always do, turn death into a fighting chance to live.
Exactly, thank you. It remains a powerful moment for me. It's almost like a shooting star visually.
I was going to say that's beautiful. Even the trail is beautifully done.
It's a beautiful death is the best way to put it. Where are they when all this happens? On the Genesis planet. So just the juxtaposition of death and life. And listen to the music in that. It's not particularly triumphant music. It's really not even much in the way of music at all. Mm-hmm. No miracle, no nothing. The Enterprise dies, and that's a character dying, much like Spock in 2.
And you know my feeling about that ship. Yeah, so...
Right, and they will resurrect an Enterprise. It will not be the last Enterprise, obviously. But in the moment, that was great.
Plus, we didn't know that that's what would happen with the Enterprise, because although we'd had a refit, it was the same ship. We didn't have precedent, did we?
Right.
There would be another Enterprise. Because they killed Spock in 2, you didn't think they would do an equivalent act. And they were very clever by choosing the ship as the equivalent act. And then you have David too, of course. David's just died.
Well, this was the point I was going to make, is it's very telling that I'm more shocked and emotional about the destruction of the Enterprise than the death of David.
Oh, poor Mary Broderick.
It doesn't hit as hard because you have the Enterprise bit. That's the thing that sticks in the mind rather than David.
But also, David was never developed. We had, X amount of episodes with the Enterprise.
I know, but this is a human's life that we're talking about, and the ship is, as much as it is a character, it's just a ship. It's just an object.
No, it's not.
Kirk's remorse is stronger about the Enterprise than David.
Well, he didn't know David. I mean, let's just put it all in context. The audience doesn't know David. Kirk doesn't know David. We are sad about what could have been and might have been, but not what was when it comes to David.
Yeah.
We had the was with the Enterprise. I got to disagree with you.
And let's be honest, we were all going, when he says, I'm going to have one killed, we're all going, not Savick, not Savick, not Spock, not Savick, not Spock, not Savick, not Spock. So that was a bit of a sticky wicket for David to be on from the get-go, right?
Right.
My number 6, and I do wonder whether this will be higher on my colleagues' list, but it's The Next Generation's Best of Both Worlds Part 1, the finale.
What specifically?
So I'm really just talking about the build-up to the final scene. Encounter with the Borg, the Riker-Shelby rivalry, Picard being taken, Locutus then talking to Riker, and then you have Riker's order to fire. Hard cut, to be continued, and months of like, oh God, what happened? The reason why this isn't higher is when we were talking about the season 2 openers, and you both spoke about the season premiere of Picard, what followed impacted the placement of that. For me, and I know Rich disagrees with this, The Best of Both Worlds Part 2, and particularly the immediate aftermath of this moment and how it's resolved, Locutus has told the Borg about the weapon, and so they just negate it and then they fly off. It was so disappointing. I do love the surprise of this. What's going to happen? The Riker's actually going to shoot. Can't believe it. Mr. Worf, fire. But what happens after that colours the moment for me.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I think this does come up for me later. But I think maybe it's the emphasis, which is I cared less about the cliffhanger in the sense of the actual moment of hanging off the cliff and more about Picard. So my feelings about part 2 is I love all the stuff with the retrieval of Picard and the stuff with Data in sickbay and stuff in the lab and stuff.
I don't think part 2 is bad.
No, I'm not saying that. But I think
by any means. It's just, it goes from a 10 out of 10 down to probably a 6.5, maybe a 7.
I can't disagree with the fact that it's a weak resolution of the actual moment. That's absolutely true. But I remember not really caring about that. I just wanted to know what was going to happen to Picard. So my number 5 is Next Gen, and it's the death of Tasha Yar. In the context of how I saw it, little boy in England, completely disconnected from any of the stories at that point, and knowing anything about it, I was just polaxed and couldn't believe they did it. And it did sort of give gravitas to Next Gen, which I think it dined off for quite some time and exploited, as we said, with the best of both worlds, that they could kill a character. Yeah, we've talked about it before in terms of the tear-jerking moments. I really like Tasha. Still to this day, like the throwaway nature of it. It made a very profound point about the reality of life and death and how everyday and mundane it can be and not necessarily be a world-ending event that results in that, or a heroic act, just a moment of senseless violence.
My number 5 is Sisko bringing the Romulans into the Dominion War. The man really crosses the line here. It's one of the best twists in Star Trek history, really, for me. Not so much because he does it, but because of the way he accepts doing it. Strategically, it's the right move. In every other way possible, it's unacceptable. And he accepts it, which I thought was just really cool. I mean, part of it is desperation. Part of it is smart to work with Garak. And guess what? It works. The Romulans enter the war, right? He compromises everything here. His morals, he's complicit, there's murder, and he understands what he has done, and he understands the outcome of what's going to happen based on his actions, yet he justifies it all. And put it this way, if Gene Roddenberry were alive, this would have killed him. Because, the whole concept of the franchise is principle and idealism.
Yeah.
And, here this was a major twist against that. That's why you came to me, isn't it, Captain? Because you knew I could do the things you weren't capable of doing. So is that goodness joining forces with evil for a greater good?
Maybe.
It's always interesting to me. And what's the key line that Sisko says? I can live with it.
The thing is, he's as much tricked as the Romulans are. Garak fools him.
Yeah.
But then he makes the decision to be complicit.
He got played
beautifully by Garak.
Your comment about the Roddenberry thing actually just made me think. Part of the inspiration for this was the Watergate memo that exists, the Zimmerman one, where essentially they lay out the moral quandary and the president says, I can live with it. And it just made me think that, Roddenberry's president is Kennedy. You can see him sort of wanting to be like JFK and lots of that sort of, because obviously he was still morally questionable in some areas, but represented a utopian ideal of what American president could be. And then the idea that anything Nixon, tainted like Nixon, could be in Star Trek, in Starfleet in particular.
I am going to disagree with you and say that I believe his president would have been FDR.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah. Interesting.
But Nixon's a beloved president of the US, isn't he?
In retrospect, he got more respect than you would be expecting. He became a respected voice after everything kind of died away. I guess what you would call an elder statesman because of the whole thing with China, tying that back into Star Trek. So, yeah, interesting. Good point.
So my fifth spot is Deep Space Nine as well. So there were two choices here. The first one is the destruction of the USS Odyssey by the Jem'Hadar in Season 2's episode, The Jem'Hadar. Because it's a Galaxy-class starship, you immediately go, gosh, what if that had been the Enterprise D?
Mm-hmm.
That would mean no more Picard, no more Data, no 4-movie run. And so it's shocking from that point of view. The one that I've actually chosen is probably more predictable. It's the destruction of the USS Defiant in Season 7's The Changing Face of Evil. I did not see that coming at all. You know, it's a hero ship. It's a tough little ship, which should become integral to the whole series since its introduction. Is it Season 3? I think it was introduced.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. That's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to lose the ship. It's slightly tempered by the fact that they replace something like 3 episodes later.
Yeah, what's the name of the one they rename?
The USS Sao Paulo was the ship that they replaced it with.
Fittingly sounding like the name they give a runabout.
Yeah. Or a vacation spot, one or the other.
The Defiant is one of my favourite starships. You go back and listen to Season 1, Episode 6 with John Hughes. We spoke about this. Like the destruction of the Enterprise, it's just stuck in my mouth. I genuinely couldn't believe that they'd done it. I remember after watching the episode, sitting back and going, holy cow, can't believe that.
Good choice.
My number 4 stays in DS9. And it's sort of a Trojan horse, not really a tie. It's a particular twist that when I went back to think about it, remembered it was allied to another twist. So it's the fact that Bashir is a changeling, because you always wondered if that was going to be done and if anyone was a changeling. And there's always something unnerving and also resonatingly true that if you're going to replace someone, it would be Bashir. Because while he had depths by this point that we all enjoyed, his surface demeanor could be seen as fairly callow and linear. But even when he did deepen, he was still very much in the sort of righteous doctor kind of thing. And this was obviously before they did all the genetic engineering. But yeah, I remember thinking, oh God, Julian, because the Julian O'Brien relationship was so key to DS9 and to their sort of camaraderie with the crew that you're like finding sort of going, and it was that thing of starting to try and work out when it had happened. But then also, of course, ultimately that story links straight into the Trojan horse part, which is that the Cardassians joined the Dominion, which was unexpected. It's a little double, but it began with Bashir being a changeling. Ian.
My number 4 is Spock dies saving the Enterprise in Star Trek II. It changed Star Trek forever. It was absolutely heartbreaking. It was pretty much a 2-shot for much of it between these 2 actors who had formed this great bond as friends and actors at the time. The sacrifice is completely true to the character. It felt final in the moment. You had to work hard to catch the Katra thing because you were so in the moment with the death. But they really did lay the seeds there. It also helps that this was one of Shatner's finest performances. You can feel his helplessness being on the other side of the glass, and the whole thing with the fingers and not being able to do it was absolutely beautiful. Say it with me, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Well, the one.
And I have been and always shall be
your friend.
Your friend. Yeah, we all know the lights.
Right. It's all there. So the next 3 are powerful and more personal to me in different ways. The next 3 are my next 3 for a particular reason.
Okay.
Well, I said this would be my number 1 because when did this come out again? What year?
82.
82, so I was 10 when I saw this.
I wish I knew little Toby.
Very innocent child.
The choir boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Had a higher voice back then.
What happened?
I only know him post testicles descending.
There's a phrase I wouldn't have predicted we'd hear today.
I was in tears. I was genuinely in tears because I didn't know there would be another movie.
Oh, I thought you meant when your testicles dropped.
Now all the singing stuff has to stay in.
I know.
That sealed it. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was distraught by it, and I couldn't see how they could bring him back. I think I probably swerved off Star Trek after that moment because I was so upset. I was upset with the filmmakers that they even dare to do such a thing to my favourite character.
Mm-hmm.
Would have only been when I saw the title of the next film that I was, okay, I'll go and see it. So yeah, this would be number one.
But what's your actual number 4?
This is very much a personal choice, and I fully expect this to be on no one else's list, not even in their short list. But it's Next Generation's Schisms, specifically the holodeck scene. It's probably in the wrong place. It probably shouldn't be quite so high, because it's not a quick wham bam, slap you around the face, series changing storyline. It's not a big idea. It's a long, sort of drawn out, slow burn of what the hell is going on. When this topic was suggested, it was one of the first things that popped into my head, and I don't know why, except perhaps because of my love of horror. So I couldn't leave it out. I think the whole idea is really creepy. The whole alien abduction, alien experimentation. It's one of those stories that slowly starts to make my skin crawl, sending ever increasing shivers down my spine. I love it. It's my kind of horror. I just wish Star Trek lent into this a little bit more. I know it's not what every fan wants, but every now and again, just do a story like this. I would definitely have tried to do something like this on Star Trek Excalibur.
Nice, callback.
But it's very personal. I love this story. It shocked me when I first saw it. He's had his arm severed and then reattached. The concept of it is it's just brilliant.
You should say who.
Well, it's Worf, isn't it?
I know, but I was going to say it's just we hadn't said that.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the episode, you're like, what happened to who? What?
Well, I was sort of keeping it vague because if someone hasn't seen the episode.
No, but
I think we could give spoilers 30 years later, Toby.
I know. But it's like it's one of the strongest characters on the show. And so it's shocking because of that moment as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's up there with the removal of Data's arm in Measure of a Man. You know, it's you can't quite believe what's happened.
So my number 3, we've already talked about, which is it's in the Pale Moonlight. It's Sisko's moral compromise, which we won't go over much more again, except I would mirror precisely what Ian said, which is about Garak. Garak is obviously one of my favourite all-time Star Trek characters, full stop, but is a great example of a brilliantly strategically used recurring character. And unusually, he's so well used when he's used in cases like this that you're glad he's not a regular, oddly, because you don't want too much of him. He's a secret source, which is added, and whenever he's used, even in comedic episodes like Our Man Bashir, it does layer and bring a deeper, more complexity to Deep Space Nine, and I think that's one of the reasons it works. For all the questions we've all said about it already, and is this really Star Trek? Because Garak is the character that's used, it makes absolute sense. But at the time, couldn't believe that Sisko allowed it to happen.
My number 3 is Best of Both Worlds, Picard becoming Locutus. It wasn't merely a cliffhanger. It really was more or less body horror and psychological horror. We knew the Borg were bad, but boy, were they this bad type of thing that you had going. Patrick Stewart was absolutely brilliant and chillingly cold. Part of what's scary, because they're the Borg, is that you still see visually the human in him.
Oh, the tear.
The tear always makes you say, ooh, is the human trying to get out? What's going on in there? But there's enough of him that it's a violation, and it's humiliating, and it's scary, and you feel sympathy for him. And then, obviously, the big line, resistance is futile, I am Locutus of Borg, that whole thing. And more importantly, Mr. Worf's fire as well. So it was major character development in the heat of the moment for Riker. It was indecision on the part of the other characters based on their love of their captain. It was this captain's love for his life and for his ship and for his crew that gives us that tear that you just mentioned, right? You don't see a lot of that. It was an interesting production choice, a script choice, to show the tear as a storytelling point. Go back and forth on it in my head. Is it a cheap shot or not? Because we don't really see other characters react to being Borgified.
No.
Correct? Is he so strong that we get to see him react? And is his reaction a tear, or should it be anger? Should there have been like frustration or anger in his eye rather than a tear? So I always have gone back and forth on that tear. It's a beautiful visual moment, and it signifies everything, but I'm not sure if it was the right Picard moment.
I would say it was. I would definitely say
as
it
well,
was.
because for me, it's
how bad it's got.
he's still in there, but he can't do anything about it. He's lost the battle.
If he's beaten and he's reduced to this,
Yeah.
what would be the rest of us be like? Well, I think a lot, because a lot of people do get tearful when they're angry, but it's also for me, what it said was, I'd assumed he was angry,
But there's nothing he can do about it.
but it's it. He's broken. He's broken. He cannot influence it, and that impotent rage gives way to. It's like a complete loss of hope, is the way I put it.
Yeah, but the 4 light sequence is to me stronger than that here because of the way he fights so hard with it. Here, his only reaction is the tear. And I just, maybe it's just me, I just would have preferred some other way of visually depicting his incapacitation and frustration.
In Chain of Command, it's torture, yes, but it's everything you said about the body horror. It's a violation. It's not simply a bad thing being done. It's a violation of everything he stands for, everything he is.
Agreed.
He does break down into tears in the recovery episode, Family. Ultimately, he gets angry about it, and then it shows that he just couldn't do anything about it.
Which is why I almost would have preferred that here. Same point. You just made my point.
But he couldn't do that.
I didn't want the tear here. I wanted it later when he recovered.
I think it links them.
I do.
All right.
It had a profound impact on me in the sense of Picard doesn't cry. How bad is it for this man to shed a tear?
I agree with everything you guys are saying. I think my bigger issue is I just didn't think it was the right thing to show for Picard in that moment, because we never saw another Borgified character react in any way.
So, not to go back to our Borg episode, but the one of the things which I never really liked about the nanites was it's too easy. It was too quick and easy. The thing, because that comes from this, which is this was horribly grindy, torturous, things being drilled in, things being bolted on, your will being subjugated by just the sheer horrible application of this technology. The nanites made it, and I'm a Borg. And so the Borg was never really quite as powerful because they moved away from that. So, and that's what this sort of encapsulates, that it's being done to him and he can do nothing. They get that by showing it step by step. More things are added. The color is drained even more. That process is so torturous and unpleasant. And as you said, visceral, in that body horror kind of way.
Well argued, both of you. The tear doesn't do it for me.
No, cool.
For me, I feel like it's not immediate, so that you still keep part of your humanity. You can't do anything about it, but it's the slow erosion, so that you would then turn into the mindless drone.
Like initially, they even give him a sexy black body stocking, which then even that gets covered up.
Something I forgot to mention with that episode is I really do like the arc of Riker, which comes from Shelby. And
I love Shelby.
That he has this self-doubt about whether he's ready for command. But then when the moment comes, he actually makes the hard call. We have to do it. This is our one shot. And then it's ruined by part 2.
Ruined. And he says, I liked it, remember? Yeah, ruined.
Just that moment. Just that moment.
What's your number 3 then?
My number 3, it has kind of been mentioned. This is not a tie, this is a triple up. So my number 3, I'm just going to say, is Denise Crosby. So Skin of Evil, her death, really, really shocking. The return of her in yesterday's Enterprise is equally as, holy cow.
Yeah, I agree.
That's brilliant. Awesome. And then she then goes and dies again, except rather than the arbitrary, pointless death from Skin of Evil, she's actually given some worth. The self-sacrifice is much more profound.
The one silver lining in an otherwise darker universe.
Yeah. And then I have to throw in Redemption, Part 1, and the reveal of Sela. Again, was not expecting her back. I'm not necessarily a big fan of that character, but it was a real shock. Also, it was, how is that possible? Why is Tasha Yar a Romulan? Someone explain,
Even though it drew even more attention to how bad the Romulan wigs were.
I think you think about that way more than I do. I mean, I don't really like the big shoulder pads.
I don't like anything about the way the Romulans look on TNG, to be perfectly honest.
If I was to choose my pick of those 3 moments, I had to get all 3 moments in there. It's probably Tasha Yar's death in Skin of Evil, because I didn't see it coming. I'm not as big a fan of that character, but I was genuinely surprised by that. And the whole funeral sequence afterwards is very moving, and with the hologram and everything. So
I just looked up on AI. How did I word it? I don't buy Picard's tears in Best of Both Worlds. And the argument for the tear is designed to show the remaining humanity left within Picard. It's a moment of pure torment. He's trapped inside his own body, forced to watch through Locutus' eyes as the Borg destroy his life and fleet. It highlights that he's not just a cyborg, but a violated person, showcasing the trauma later explored in Family. Why it feels unearned or unbelievable, many feel that it is too dramatic. If the Borg assimilate all knowledge and emotional nuance, a single emotive tear seems counter to their cold mechanical nature. The scene can feel like the show pushing the emotional stakes too hard rather than letting the horror of the situation speak for itself. Interesting, both sides.
It is. Which is relevant because my number 2 is Picard becoming Locutus of Borg.
boring.
There you go.
We already did that one.
Yeah, we talked about it. Next, Ian, what's your number 2?
Well, my number 2 is Tasha Yar dies.
You almost skip that one as well.
Now, I will say this. The death was startling. Laughable with the tar monster.
Armus.
Yep. But just in terms of what our topic is here, shocks and twists, nobody saw that one coming. That is one that's instantaneous and unnecessary and just pure shock. A lot of this is 35 years later type of hindsight because we hardly knew the character. It's not quite as shoehorned or forced as Ariam's death in Discovery, where we hardly knew this character for any episodes, and then we get 8 minutes with her before we kill her in her death episode. We did have some minor character development of Yar before her death. It's just the randomness of the death, and it shows you that nobody's truly safe on Star Trek or out in space or when you are exploring. Break it down as specifically or broadly as you want to.
It's a dangerous job. We're used to seeing the red shirts dying. That's something that, it's a joke.
I mean, the original series should have been in red.
Right, and how beautiful is the line, death is the state in which one exists only in the memory of others. Beautiful line.
I agree with you. I think I said this when we talked about the saddest moments. We don't know how it would have panned out, obviously, but seeing how brilliantly they developed everybody else, it is, even with Gates' comments about how she feels about Crusher, it still is interesting. You just think, what could have been with that character? Because her backstory was interesting as hell.
Yeah.
My number 2, and you have to think about when I saw this episode. It's the Spock killing Kirk in a mock time. I was a nipper when I saw this, and I didn't really understand things like what we now call plot armor. I don't think it even occurred to me that a character could die. I think it was probably the first time that I'd ever seen that. And not just die, but then be brought back to life. So to me, it seemed very final. I am pretty sure I didn't know that this was episode 1 of season 2. That would have given me a clue. I can't even remember if I was watching them in order. For all I knew, this was the series finale, and this is how it was going to end. And that moment, jaw dropped, head discombobulated. I'm amazed I didn't turn the TV off immediately and go running to my mum, crying my eyes out.
I think he did, but go on.
Well, no, I can't, because I saw the resolution. So, thankfully I stayed to the end and all was right in the world again. Kirk was the hero of the show. Spock became my favourite character, but I started watching because of I love Kirk. And so, considering the age that I watched this should be my number 1, because it really, really did. As a shocking moment, it's the thing that really, really sticks in my mind. My number one is something I watched much older, and so I was more sophisticated, and my understanding of narrative storytelling is stronger. So, you watch Remote Time now, and you kind of, well, they're not really going to kill him. McCoy's going to do something.
No, you kind of go, so how are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
But at the time, I was just like, I can't believe it. He's killed Kirk.
That was so very British. Oh no,
He's killed Kirk.
I'm doing the age. I'm doing the age that it was at the time. Now it'd be like, what the?
all the reasons you just given for that is the reasons for my number one. But before I do say my number one, I would say there's a couple of honourable mentions. Section 31 being revealed in DS9 almost made my list. Sort of how we talked about Pale Moonlight. Went against Roddenberry saying that's why it was a twist. Oh, there's a Black Ops. Oh. You already mentioned Sella being revealed as Tashiel's daughter. That was one. I remember finding that Species 8472 just decimating the Borg was an incredible twist.
Yeah, that's a really cool, shocking moment. That's the teaser bit, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Kirk's death, if it hadn't been so bloody pre-trailed and, everyone knew about it, to some degree in Generations would have been there, but specifically the beginning in a way. That's what I liked about that. And the last one, not saying I liked it, the last honourable mention is the fact that the burn from Discovery is because of a single Kelpian kid. That was my, what the fuck moment.
Can I just say, just as honourable mentions as we're doing them, Enterprise's Azati Prime, I think is a really good, that's got some really shocking stuff in it. Also, the cold opening for TNG's Cause and Effect with the destruction of the Enterprise, that is brilliant.
And I would throw in the Kobayashi Maru as a one. I would throw in Data sacrificing himself in Nemesis. I would go with Ash Tyler, the Voke reveal in Discovery.
That's a good one, actually.
It was in my top 15. There's a bunch.
Balance of Terror.
Yep.
The Romulan Vulcan connection. That was great. I remember when I first saw that as well.
But it's interesting that nobody has mentioned my number one yet.
Oh, okay. Right, let me do mine, and then
And I wonder if our number ones are all the same.
No.
My number one's been said.
Yeah, and my number one is has been said. My number one is for the reason that Toby gave for Amok Time is when I saw it, which would have been 1983, I think. So I was 7. I was still fairly new to Star Trek. I hadn't watched the original series, so my version of it is literally my version of what you just said about Amok Time, which is the death of Spock in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And as an adult, I've re-experienced that when I knew that it had been leaked. And so the Kobayashi Maru, which you just mentioned, Ian, was the fake out. Was the see, everyone thought they saw this. This is what they saw. And you're like, oh, that's very clever, just enough that even if you thought you knew, they bait and switched you.
The Kobayashi Maru, I think I was intrigued by it, but because it was the beginning of the movie, I knew it wasn't real. I thought probably it was a dream and then they woke up kind of thing.
I had the benefit of there being a very brief period with Search for Spock coming, and I knew it was. But nonetheless, that was, except for a very strange viewing of Jesus of Nazareth when I was 5, that was the most emotional on-screen death I've ever experienced.
And Spock resurrected like Jesus of Nazareth.
Indeed.
So there's the connection.
Yeah. That's what was missing from the Bible. Remember.
When you first saw it, do you remember that scene in it at all? I don't even remember that scene. I'm convinced that scene wasn't in the film that I watched.
Do you remember? No, it definitely was.
It's one of those false memory things.
Yeah, I think so, because it doesn't really, as Ian said, you don't really process it because of what's happening.
In real time, you didn't process it.
The reason I can attest to that, Toby, with absolute clarity is because I hadn't really watched very much Star Trek, it was only the second mind meld I ever saw. And the first one was the bloody motion picture, I'm going to try and mind meld with the ILEA sensor. And that didn't, but that was the first time I ever saw that. So that was pretty, strong.
So you remember it?
Yeah, I do, because I remember that. Ian, what's your number one?
My number one...
Ian, as yours hasn't been mentioned, shall I go next? Because mine has. And then we can have yours as the cliffhanger.
You should produce this shit, Tobes. Go ahead.
So my number one, Rich mentioned it, it's Deep Space Nine in Purgatory Shadow by Infinity's Light. Again, when this theme was mentioned, I knew this was going to be my number one. Dr. Bashir and Martok, let's not forget, we know that they have been gone at least 4 episodes simply by the old Deep Space Nine uniform that the captured Bashir is wearing.
That's a good point. Yes, that is a very good point. Yeah.
You have to trace it back from there. They swapped the uniforms in the 10th episode, which was Rapture.
Yeah.
And then In Purgatory Shadow is the 14th episode. So you know that they've been gone at least 4 episodes. I can't tell you how excited I was by this revelation. I thought it was fantastic. There's more to it than that because I love the scenes with Worf fighting the Jem'Hadar in the ring, which is in the second part, and I love what happens with Garrett with his claustrophobia. You mentioned the twist with the Cardassians joining the Dominion. There's just a lot to enjoy. Amok Time probably should be my number 1 because it's the one which had the most impact on me. But this is the one that I just
respect the most. Yeah.
I went on gut instinct because the whole thing is its surprise. So there are almost certainly things that I missed out, moments that I missed out, episodes that I missed out. I definitely wouldn't put Data's death at the end of Nemesis. That was so telegraphed. That wasn't shocking to me whatsoever. This is the one, because I was an adult when I saw it and the impact it had on me, I had to put this in. It's just a fab episode.
Well said. Better than I said it.
Much.
As ever. Ian.
Yeah, go for it. I'm really interested.
Gentlemen, what is my favorite Star Trek show?
Deep Space Nine.
What have 5 of my, or 4 so far of my 6, now 5 of my 7 involved?
Deaths of characters.
You putting Jadzia in there?
Jadzia's death. Yeah, Jadzia's death really hit me. Now, again, originally I had what, everybody would typically have, which would have been Picard becoming Locutus and Tasha Yar dying. Those were originally 2 and 1. My number 3 was originally Dax. And then I just sat there and I said to myself, you know what? The one that affected me the most personally of these 3 was Dax's murder. She didn't just die. She was killed. She wasn't just killed. It came out of nowhere. It was so sudden. Terry Farrell grew into that role and was just profoundly beautiful. And
you know how much I love Dax. So
yeah, same.
Right. As a human, as an actress, Jadzia was just one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek. And Terry Farrell is one of my favorite people in all of Star Trek. I was covering the show in depth at that time, and I did not know that this was going to happen. That's how well this secret was kept. I don't know that it could have been kept that well now with the way everything works, but even then, and in cases, I got scripts early back then. I was sometimes sent episodes on a videotape a week or 2 in advance. This one, nothing like that. So I was as shocked as anybody watching the show when it happened. And it killed me as much as it devastated Worf and as much as it devastated Sisko. Just the beautiful lines that resulted, things like she was the most alive person I have ever known, or just as simple from Benjamin saying, my friend, my beloved friend. It just broke my heart on multiple levels and for multiple reasons. This is the one that really came out of the blue. It's higher for me than Tasha, for example, because I didn't know Tasha. She had 20-something episodes, and she was never truly the focus. We had 6 seasons of Dax. We fell in love with her. We saw her be playful with our Klingon friends, right? The old guys who came back.
Blood Oath, love that.
Just absolutely one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek. One of my favorite actors. The perfect marriage of actor to character and character to actor. When she died, a piece of my heart died with her when it came to that show.
My opinion of that has definitely been coloured by the rewatch.
It's been well documented on the
I'm trying to think back to when I first saw it and how I reacted. I probably did react shocked back when I first saw it. And if I hadn't rewatched it recently, maybe that would have been in there just from memory alone. I can't get over how it's handled after the fact.
So please listen to previous episodes so we don't have to listen to Toby rant about this one again.
Yeah.
For me, the particularly personal element of that for you is what really resonates. Because interestingly, I randomly was stopped by someone in the street who listens to the podcast. First time that's happened.
How did they recognize? All sorts of questions about that.
No, they know me.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't know they were a listener.
Okay.
And they asked who the guests were coming up, and I said, we just recorded Armin and Kitty. And then they said, is there anyone who you'd most like to talk to? And you know this already, the guys know this, but it's Terry Farrell. I'd love, because of what you've just said, which is that she is doesn't disappoint and is so reflective of that character in so many ways. So that for me makes a lot of sense, because it's not just, as you said, it's not just what happened in the show, it's the fact you didn't know that your favorite actor was leaving.
Right, should we wrap this up?
Yes. Yeah. So those are our choices for the biggest shocks and twists in Starship, but what are yours? The details for contacting us, email, social media links, all of those things can be found in the description. But other than that, no shock ending for us. Well, let's see what the boys say. But we'll see you soon beyond the final frontier.
Peace, love, and logic, everybody.
Ta-ra a bit.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with Rich Matthews, Ian Spelling and Toby Weidman. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us on beyondffpod@gmail.com or check us out on social media. You can even join our Patreon at BFF Beyond the Final Frontier. Huge thanks go out to Alex Weidman for the brilliant original music. Please search Alex Weidman Composer on YouTube to hear the full fantastic theme and more. Also thanks goes to award-winning voiceover artist Sissy Jones for our excellent opening monologue. Find out more about her incredible work at sissyjones.com. And of course, last but not least, our brilliant artwork comes from the designer Russell Seal. Discover more of his work on behance.net/Russell Seal. Thanks again and see you next episode, Beyond the Final Frontier.